All righty. Well, a good Monday morning to all of you. Welcome in the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Good to have you along. And as we do each and every day, Monday through Friday, streaming live from 11 until 1 on Twitter at Chico Show CLE. Also, go over to YouTube, type in the Chico Bormann Show. And if you are not subscribing, we humbly ask you to please do so. Hit that button and you'll be ready to roll. We have an audio version of the show available after the show on Spotify, wherever you can download the app from Spotify. And also in the works, I believe, Warden McAllister is telling me that wherever you get your podcast, iTunes, iHeart, wherever, that in the works we'll have a live version of the show available wherever you get your podcast, making it much more accessible. So when that happens, we will certainly pass that along. All right, telephone number to get involved if you would like to, 216-626-7901. 216-626-7901. Tweet at me on Twitter, either at the show account at Chico Show CLE or personal at Big Play Chico. Mr. Bombastic continues to be on the road. I have not heard from him. I don't know if that's good or bad. But intern Ryan is back again. He is not he's not scarred to the point where he cannot bounce back for another show. And intern Ryan in here on this Monday. Ryan, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, Chico. I had a good weekend. Got to watch some football, hang out with my friends, so I can't ask for more than that. And I'm happy to be here with you again.
Well, that last part we know is BS, but that's okay. No, it's okay. It's and always love having you guys here, and did a great job on Friday. So I made a hard play. I mean, like I demanded. Not really, but you know, it sounds good to say that you be back with me here on Monday. All right, so obviously the Browns game on Friday. You give me, I'll tell you what, intern Ryan, you give me your initial takeaways. Nothing, too in-depth, just kind of, general first blush takeaways.
On the Bears surface, I was happy. The starters looked good. Deshaun looked more comfortable than he has been in the past. Obviously, our D-line, which is supposed to be bolstered, did look good. Austin Watkins, pleasant surprise. Ronnie Hickman, pleasant surprise. Ogbo Okoronkwo played very well. JOK looked good. Juan Thornhill looked good. So obviously we didn't have a lot of our starters, but first initial look, I thought we looked pretty good. And I think there was a lot of good takeaways for Browns fans, except there was a glaring spot that people aren't happy with, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. That's obviously
the backup guard. Oh, the kicker, yes, Cade York, yes. And I'll tell you what, we'll get to this. As soon as I arrived, I had not seen this yet. Fanboy Nick Padone, our great social media guru, and he is fantastic at his job. Now, some baseball takes leave a little bit to be desired, but that's all right. What he gets paid to do, he does very, very well. He greeted me with a possible reason and it's actually graphed. It's on a graph. I always feel like, and I know even go back to school, like if something's on a graph, people will give it a little bit more, a little more of a look, a little more of okay, I'm not going to blow it off just yet. And this comes with a graph as well as to the struggles of Cade York. We'll get to that in a moment. And again, want to hear from you, your thoughts from Friday's game. Browns did not win that game. Again, final score never means a damn thing. By the way, what are considered to be, and don't take just my word for it, I mean, Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, players, everybody else has pretty much said the same thing. Today, tomorrow, 5 p.m., joint practices with the Philadelphia Eagles expected to be, this is where we are with training camp these days. Bernie and Hanford are like, what the hell? Back in our day, these are going to be the most competitive practices, really, of camp. before we ramp up to the Week 1 opener against the Bengals. So, big couple of days here. We'll talk about that. We'll get to that here in a few moments. But I do want to get your thoughts on the game itself, some of your takeaways, some of your the pluses, the positives, the bads, the goods, the bads, everything. 216-626-7901. All right, let's start with Deshaun Watson, because you mentioned Watson too. And I think it goes without saying, even if we don't say it before every game. So I'll get this out of the way now. So, like, if Week 3, we're talking about the game, I forget who they play. It might be Pittsburgh, actually. If it is Pittsburgh or whoever it is, if we don't say one of the keys to the game is Deshaun Watson, well, of course, it's always going to be Deshaun Watson. But particularly right now, because he got off to such a great start in camp. And that is not to say, and I need to be very clear about this, that is not to say that, like, he got off to a great start in camp all the way back to mandatory mini camp and shorts and T-shirts and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, fell off. It's not that at all. But, again, you're adjusting, you're throwing more things in there. The defense, a lot of times in training camp, the defense, it's designed that the defense will win for the most part. I don't know, so designed, but it usually just happens that way. That said, I think we always want to see Deshaun Watson look good as we get ready for Week 1, because we all know what happened last year. We don't need to rehash it, but he came back after Week 11 and it was a mess. Was it all his fault? No. But could you very, very easily see 700 days off between snaps in the NFL? You absolutely could. Could you also see that this was an offense and a team and not Jacoby Brissett's fault? By the way, that was a great scene before the game. That tells you all you need to know about Jacoby Brissett and how respected he was as his former teammates here in Cleveland had nothing but great things to say to him before the game. But the offense, you had injuries, you had Stefanski still trying to figure some things out. You had a mess going on. I mean, the defense pretty much start to finish was a mess. The secondary kind of got cleaned up a little bit, but you just never on the same page. And obviously, you had the biggest change, I think, of all in the offseason with Jim Schwartz. So, there was a lot that Deshaun Watson, following the suspension, came into that were, I think you could probably term, mitigating circumstances. Regardless, he's your $230 million guaranteed QB, and you want to see some positives. We saw that. We saw that on Friday. I'm going to give a shout-out to our buddy, Eric Edholm, with NFL.com, who now joins our other buddy. I hear that we had odds going on who the guests would be. Now, see, during football season, they're pretty easy to guess, because I don't like to stray from I'm Tito in that regard. Maybe I should play the younger guys. But I have tried and true veterans that I like to go to on a weekly basis during the season. It's that important. So what I believe. Was it Big Shot Bob that had Nick Shook?
Yeah, Big Shot Bob called Nick Shook. Him and Eric Caselius were, I think, the favorites to be on today's show.
Yeah, EK's going to be, EK will be probably next week, because he's going to give us some fantasy advice. He does that, gambling and stuff on the CBS Sports Network. So we'll definitely get to EK. But yeah, Shook, especially with the Monday wrap-up. Because, as I said, NFL.com, I love it. And it just so happens that it was Edholm, not Shook. Last week it was Shook. This week it was Edholm that was tasked with a lot of what we learned from preseason week, well, number 1, but really number 2, at least for the Browns. Or 2, I should say preseason, wait a minute. Yeah, preseason week number 2. Now I got it all confused. Preseason. They had the Hall of Fame game. So this was really preseason game number 1. Jeez, oh, man. Can we just start the season already? And Edholm had a very, very interesting way of saying, because I think one of the words that we kind of overplayed, and myself included, leading into Friday and after Friday was, he looked comfortable. He looked comfortable. He looked comfortable. There was comfort. Eric said it. His fight or flight response in the pocket was much improved, which I think is an excellent way of saying it. And essentially is, because there were times last year, and we hope this doesn't, he is still learning the offense. I mean, yeah, he's a smart guy. He puts in all the time in the world, but there's still going to be hiccups. I don't think anywhere near what we were looking at last year, but, there's going to be some bumps along the way. But in terms of to use Eric Edholm's response, the fight or flight thing, there were times last year when he came back, like he looked very indecisive when he should bail, when he should, get out of the pocket, when he should stay in the pocket and hold the ball and wait. So, I mean, those things seem to be, from that standpoint, you saw a much better Deshaun Watson. What I think is interesting right now, and this is what we do with preseason, it's okay. There's no need to be alarmed. There's no need for criticism or anything. But you get the shiny new toy becomes like the focal point, and oh man, and that guy right now is DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. First of all, the guy is exceptional. I mean, he's played exceptionally well. He's a great athlete. He is extremely smart. Like, that doesn't get talked about enough. Like, this guy does a lot of homework and has been doing that. That's kind of how he's wired back to his days at UCLA. So, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, another good showing. And now all of a sudden, we're getting maybe DTR should be number 2 on the depth chart over Josh Dobbs. This is where we got to say pump the brakes. And it's not as much about Dorian Thompson-Robinson doesn't look as good as we think he does. He does. But there's only really one guy that matters in all this, and it's Kevin Stefanski. And Kevin Stefanski, as any coach will do and should do, Bowman and I get into this all the time with Kyle McCord versus Devin Brown, and he wants to tear my head off. Like, he's more comfortable, Ryan Day is, with Kyle McCord right now, but Devin Brown could end up, who knows? Right now, Josh Dobbs has a very firm grasp of the offense. And I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson, for a rookie, has a very good firm grasp of the offense because, again, it's not fair to just say, oh, well, he's just a great athlete. He is a great athlete, but he's also a very great quarterback, or a very good quarterback, what he's shown so far in camp and was at UCLA, but he puts in a lot of extra work. That said, Josh Dobbs is still number 2. I mean, I've heard people over the weekend say, like, oh, yeah, he's jumped him. It's now DTR 2 and Dobbs 3, and until Kevin Stefanski makes that proclamation, I'm not going to go there yet. I think he's – and the reason maybe you're not seeing as much of Dobbs is because usually that can be in the preseason. That's usually a good thing because it means, hey, I know what you can do, and clearly he knows him and he knows what he can do. I don't need to see as much of you. Yeah, I want to see more of this rookie. And hey, by the way, he does look good and he does have the fans energized. So even, bonus points there. But I've got to believe, Ryan, that when it comes to the pecking order, we know who's number 1. Barring injury, Josh Dobbs. Now, maybe towards the end of the season, this changes. I'm not saying that Dobbs is absolutely set in stone, but we got to relax if we think after 2 preseason games that Dorian Thompson-Robinson has leapfrogged Josh Dobbs as number 2. Just, hold on just a little bit on that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's preseason play. DTR is obviously a rookie. You're in a position where you're in the regular season, right? You have a division lead. God forbid Deshaun goes down. I mean, Dobbs is number 2 for the job, right? He's been in the league for a while. But like you said, it's the shiny object. Like DTR is so fun. He makes electric plays, obviously, with his legs. So while we want to put him up there, I agree with you. It's too early. But I will say, for a rookie, he looked so comfortable, so poised. And I believe he already has 3 drives of 75-plus yards that ended in a score. So, I mean, he's had just as good of a preseason as he could. But I agree with you for now. Pump the brakes. Let's see what he can do against – right, like he's playing against a third unit. But right now I agree with you that Dobbs is the guy behind Deshaun, as he should be.
Yeah. And I think and I don't take this part lightly either, which I think is why it's not just, wow, DTR has played well. And this is a big job of a quarterback. You know, how does your team respond to you? Like the team seems to be they seem to take it to another gear because he takes it to another gear. And so, you know, when you have a quarterback that can kind of has that sort of that sort of impression or that sort of effect on your offense, on your teammates, that can be nothing but good. And I think right now that's what we're seeing out of DTR. But I think, you know, clearly it's Deshaun, it's Dobbs, it's DTR, and maybe that changes as we go along. All right, so as far as the running back room, this was one of your favorite topics on Friday, Ryan. Didn't see Nick Chubb, don't expect to see Nick Chubb, don't need to see Nick Chubb. He's one guy that, yeah, I'm totally fine. Get out the bubble wrap. Put him in a closet. Not because we don't like him, but just because we don't want anything to happen to him. And, you know, you know what I think, too? I'll say this. I know it's way too early because, you know, it's September 10th? Is that the first game of the season against the Bengals? I think we're going to see a lot of Nick Chubb in the first week. I do. I think, and I know... And I do believe that throughout the course of the year, the plan's still going to be the same, that, hey, we're kind of monitoring, kind of like a pitch count. We're monitoring how many snaps, and we want to make sure that, you know, he's fresh at the end of the game and, oh, by the way, the end of the season and, oh, by the way, towards the end of the contract, because all of that does play in with these guys. Like it or not, that's what they're doing with them. I think out of the gate, though, I think you're going to see a lot of Nick Chubb, and I'm happy about that. I'm not gonna sit here and say, because the Bengals defense is good. They have some question marks of their own. They've had a lot of turnover in the secondary, but the one thing is, like, we're excited about Jim Schwartz for good reason. The Bengals have a pretty damn good one of their own that nobody talks about in Lou Anarumo. Like, he is very, very good. But I just get the sense that, okay, I know that Stefanski will want to, you know, open up the playbook and play with all the toys, and I'm all good with that. Fine. I mean, you've got to keep a team, you know, honest and off balance, but I think I just have a feeling those first couple weeks and specifically week 1 that we're going to see a lot of Nick Chubb, and I'm totally cool with that. Now, beyond that, we're still waiting to see, you know, Ford out with I think it's a couple more weeks with the hamstring injury. I think they signed a veteran. Is it
Jordan Wilkins?
Wilkins, yeah, I was going to say Watkins. That's the receiver. Wilkins, yes. So, and no surprise there. Now, the only surprise for some might be, wait a minute, I thought it might be somebody with a little bit more splash, a little bit. It's what's tough to know right now versus the first week of the season. And really, cut down day, which is now much earlier than it ever was, is that some of these guys that are brought in for camp purposes. Like, you need, we said this about Jordan Elliott after the Hall of Fame game, like, well, maybe they just didn't have enough bodies. Part of that was true. Part of that was, I think they wanted to get an extended look at Jordan Elliott, because I do think he's on the hot seat a bit and might still be on the hot seat a bit. More on that in a moment. But I think as far as the running back room, I'm a little bit concerned beyond Nick Chubb, only because your boy, and I emphasize, Ryan, your boy, Jerome Ford, I hope he's ready to go opening day. Don't push him, but I do think he's that valuable as the backup to Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the depth chart, right, you have obviously Nick Chubb and then Jerome Ford and then Demetric Felton, John Kelly, and now Jordan Wilkins. Jerome Ford to me is easily the best out of that group, obviously besides Nick Chubb. So I wasn't that impressed by what I saw in the running back room on Friday, but I mean, I wasn't disappointed. Demetric Felton found the end zone again. But I like the addition of Wilkins. I remember him a few years ago when he was on the Colts.
Yeah.
He was solid. He's coming into his 6th year. I mean, you're obviously not asking much from him, and even if he is just a camp body, we'll see how it goes. But definitely, so as you said, my boy, I can't wait to see Jerome Ford get back, and I hope he's healthy week 1.
I think as far as the wide receiver room, what we were, I would say, 80 to 90% confident about now, or was about 80 to 90% confident. Now I think we can raise it to about 97, 98, maybe 99 even. Anthony Schwartz isn't making this team. I mean, I feel for the guy. He's a world-class sprinter. He can't get out of his own way. I think it's a confidence issue as well as, I saw somebody say like he really didn't play wide receiver until, late. He did. I mean, he wasn't like in high school. He was more focused on track and field, but he did get the full ride to Auburn. He still ran track, yes, but he was very green. This is another one that Bowman and I got into it about because I think we were talking about Rookie of the Year stuff after, Rookie of the Year is just in general for the AFC in Anthony Schwartz's rookie year. And Bohm was like hell-bent, like that Schwartz is definitely going to be in that conversation. I'm like, Bohm, you can't teach fast, right? But he's not where he needs to be. And I don't want to claim like, I knew it was going to be this. I had no idea you would be in this position. But at that point that we were discussing it, I remember saying to Bohm, like, his route tree is pretty much non-existent. Like, what he did at Auburn was pretty much stuff very close to the line of scrimmage, which is smart because, you want the ball in his hands quick, and then he makes the guy miss, and if you miss, and, well, you're left in the dust, see you later. And he would do that occasionally at Auburn. NFL, you can still do that because he does have the world-class speed, but now you've got to add some routes in there. Now you've got the attention to detail has to be so much better. And last but certainly not least, you need to catch the football. Kind of like that Seinfeld. You know how to take the rental car reservation. But really what you really need to know is how to hold the rental car reservation. Like, anybody can take it. You got to know how to hold it. And for Anthony Schwartz, like, anybody can get open per se, and I shouldn't say that. With that kind of speed, you have a good chance of getting open, but all of that goes for naught if you just can't catch the ball. And then, now on top of it, as we're seeing, Ryan, he's putting it on the turf. So, even more so, you've got some concerns there. There's no way that he's going to make the squad. Now, the only way, well, no, even that I don't, because he's not a return guy. Again, back to the securing the football issue. I think when it gets interesting with the wide receiver room is like Jakeem Grant, Jalen Darden, although he's been banged up. And again, I feel like somebody's saying, wow, the Browns have just been killed with injuries. Everybody's dealing with them. I mean, every team throughout camp, Philadelphia Eagles, the joint practices, I guarantee that, they're going through the same thing to a degree, maybe not as much, but it's there. So the ability to evaluate these guys, in particular, guys that are coming off injury. Jakeem Grant was a huge signing last year. I remember being jacked up because I'm like, oh, well, hey, maybe our return game will be worth something. Because I don't care what anybody says. This one's for you, Josh Cribbs. Special teams are still very, very important. I know we're phasing things out. But yeah, covering kicks, returning kicks when you get the opportunity, very important. Field position, very important. Jakeem Grant, unfortunately, had the injury very early, and now we're hoping. Now, he left, I think, practice early last week, but they think that's just normal soreness following, that many months off from the Achilles injury. But you just don't know how that room's going to play out. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions still to be had, still to be made, and a lot of decisions still to be made as far as Andrew Berry is concerned. But I think on the offensive side of the ball, what you really wanted to see more than anything was a comfortable Deshaun Watson. But to use Ed Holmes' word, fight or flight, yeah, his fight or flight looked much more in check than it did at any point, I thought, last year. Granted, it's preseason. 216-626-7901. So your thoughts on the Browns. We won't be long now, folks. It will not be long now before the Browns and the Bengals are going to kick it off. And I got to tell you, I have no idea what's going to happen with Joe Burrow. There's a part of me that still says, if you're the Bengals, and I think any team, any coach, and any sport for the most part feels the same way. Like, it's just gamesmanship. I don't want you to know exactly what I'm doing. Now, not that the Browns, if all of a sudden the Bengals say, you know what? Yeah, we'd love to play Joe, but we're going to be cautious. I don't think the Browns are going to be in, like, night sweats going, oh, my God, how the hell are we going to defend Trevor Siemian? How the hell are we going to? But it's just, yeah, the knowing. And if you're the Bengals, you're going to play that out as much as you can. Now, he did go through running drills, passing drills. He's moving well. It's Joe Burrow. He's young. He's a good athlete. He has a fire, and he wants to be out there. I'm not going Jamar Chase with this, where I think it's going to be the first 5 games. But I think the idea of him missing week 1 is still a distinct possibility. Now, I think I went from 80%. I told Bohm last week before he left 71%. And Bohm replied, Jedrick Wills percent. Accurate, Bohm. Accurate. Now I'm going to go down to say, I'm going to go Clay Matthews, 57% certainty that I think Joe Burrow. So still on the other side of confident that he's not going to play. Not that I want him to. Don't mistake it for that. But I don't think he will. So I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. How could I forget? The other big takeaway with the Browns. Guy by the name of, what's his? Cade York. Yeah, Cade York. Missed another field goal. First of all, let me ask this question. Because I don't know. There are some out there, like we had Damon Wolf on Friday, and he's in the camp of people are, they're exaggerating a little bit. They're getting a little overly dramatic. Now, again, when we talked to Damon on Friday, that was before the game. He missed another one. I'm usually the guy, I think, that while everybody's kind of flying off the handle on stuff, that at least I like to think I am. This could be one of those where I think I am, but other people don't think I am. But I'd like to think I'm a guy that just kind of, all right, let's look at the big picture. But even I'm nervous. I don't, because it's such, I don't know how you can't be. As much as you want to say like, whatever, it's only the preseason. Well, I'll say what I said before. Nick Shook of NFL.com is going to join us at 12:30 today. And he said this exact same thing last week. And unfortunately, I wish we could change it. But he's probably going to say the exact same thing this week because, well, nothing has changed. And that is that this is such a mentally fragile, or as they say in A Christmas Story, fragile position in the NFL mentally that it's tough. It's as much between the ears as anything. He has the leg. I don't doubt that, if you were to fly to Philly today and you were to check out the joint practices and you're watching it and you're going, holy, did you see York nail that 52-yarder? Yeah. But all of a sudden, it's game time, game situations. It's like guys like myself. I was going to say Warden McAllister, but he's I think he's a scratch handicap, right? He's better than us. It's like me and many of my fellow hackers out there, where you feel great on the range and yeah, I'm feeling confident. Then all of a sudden you're on the first tee and you're like, wait, now we're keeping score. Ooh, wow. Oh, whoa. Now you got that trouble on the left. Now you got. I think that's exactly what we're doing right now with Cade York. Like, yeah, no one doubts his leg strength. I mean, if you don't have that type of leg, you're not getting drafted in the 4th round, or you're not getting drafted, period, for the most part. But I think even when he was drafted, like it was we've been looking for a kicker. The Browns have been looking for a kicker since Phil Dawson, and they haven't been able to get that guy. And so you figured, well, this is the guy. And much like the 2020 season, which I blame myself for, thinking that, well, that's it. We're done. They got cultures built, foundations here. Now we just kind of let's go. We're off to the races. I think we thought that after 1 week with Cade York. Like, that's it. I mean, you can do that, and that was a big deal. That was a huge step. That's why you drafted that guy. For all of us that said, what are you doing wasting you could have drafted some depth at line. But then when he does that, hey, absolutely. Only problem is you got to follow it up. And then follow it up, and then, follow it up again. Nobody's asking you to be Justin Tucker, but you've got to follow it up. So let me I'll tell you what we're going to do. Make sure I have this graph. So, yeah, I'll tell you what. Should I go with it now or should I break? What do you want to do, Ryan? It's your call.
Let's do it now. Why not?
Yeah, okay, let's do it now. So I walked in the studio today, and Nick Padone, fanboy Nick, our social media guru, said, hey, did you see the graph on the holders on Bjorquez in terms of his effect on kickers, including our own Cade York? And I said, no. I mean, I honestly hadn't heard about it, read it. But like I said, everything changes, I think, at least for a bit, when you see something in graph form. Fair or unfair, you always like, oh, wow, this is in graph form. Well, graphing calculator. Remember when those were, Ryan, are graphing calculators still a big deal, or do you even need graphing calculators anymore? Like the T64 when I was growing up was a huge deal.
They're definitely still a big thing, and I know in high school they certainly were, and I know a lot of my friends in college have one, but I haven't picked up a calculator since my senior year of high school. Yeah. But I know. They definitely are still a thing, and in high school they were also a huge thing.
You have no idea.
They were a requirement.
You have no idea how, I'd say happy, but content you've made me with that. Because I thought this was going to be like a what? A T6. Oh, no, it's now the T90, 97.21. Chico, you're way so good. Graphing calculators are still very important. All right, let's get to it. Corey Bjorquez is the Browns punter. Bjorquez, I should say. I don't want to say his name wrong. We're trying to find something, anything, that says this is not, and I'm okay with this. If it makes everybody feel better, I'm okay with this. Because honestly, I don't have the answer. That's why I say kickers this is why it's so frustrating. This is why it's so you don't have control. Head coaches. You're the guy drumming up the plays. You're the guy. You're the quarterback of the team. You're the captain of the defense. But you know what? In this case, it's what's going through our kicker's head. I don't know. Do you know? No. Well, let's hope it's good, because kind of the game's on the line. So I guess maybe it could be the fault of Bjorquez. NFL kickers with Corey Bojorquez as a holder. 2018, Stephen Hauschka. His season field goal percentage, 78.6%. Career field goal percentage without Bojorquez, 86.2. Let's go. That was 18. Hauschka 2019, 78.6 for the season. Career without Bjorkes, 85. Oh, it'd be the same, 85.2. Tyler Bass. Remember Tyler Bass? Now with the Buffalo Bills, right? Tyler Bass, still with the Buffalo Bills. Season field goal percentage in 2020, 82.4. His career field goal percentage without, not with him, without Corey Bojorquez, 87.3. Mason Crosby, this is the most drastic one. Mason Crosby in 2021, Green Bay Packers, had a 73.5 season field goal percentage. This is according to a graph. You don't need to know where the graph, it's just, if I say a graph, it sounds important. This is according to a graph. 2021 Mason Crosby, 73.5%. Without Bjorquez throughout his career, 82%. Is this just somebody having way too much time on their hands and coming up with something, anything to try to make us feel better? And if so, I'm not necessarily dismissing it, because right now we need to feel a little bit better. We want to feel a little bit better about Cade York. So what do you say, intern Ryan? Is this all a bunch of hogwash, or is some of this on Bjorkes?
Well, I'm going to say it's hogwash, but I would like to think that we can blame Bjorkes for it. But I don't know. Why? Let's go see Josh Dobbs hold it. Let's go see just somebody else hold it. But I don't know. Will it make a difference in the game? I don't know.
Like, is there a hand tattoo on Bjorkes' hand that when Cade York is about to attempt a kick, it's distracting to him on his finger? I don't know.
Maybe he's got a vendetta against Cade York for some reason. We don't know.
See, this is where we go before regular season. Like, you're scraped.
We're talking about kickers and punters.
Bottled. I mean, nobody. I haven't heard anything about. Matter of fact, everything has been coming up pretty good as far as Bjorkes and what they say about him and whatever. I haven't seen anything pointed out during the games. I haven't heard or read until now and this is, and I appreciate this for what it is. It's just giving you numbers before anyone says, oh, that doesn't mean, well, okay, it might not. I think we're simply trying to make ourselves feel better about our field goal kicker, because we know damn well, way to go, you freaking field goal kicker. No, he doesn't say field goal. He just says kicker, Todd Haley. Way to go, you kicker. They're important. They are very, very important. And particularly when you are a team, cue that broken record again, fix it up for me. When you're a team as talented as the Browns, and you're going to be in a lot of close games, and you're trying to get to the playoffs, and you're trying to erase what was a very, very disappointing previous season, previous 2 seasons, these things are huge. Huge. So we missed 2. By the way, who's the idiot on Twitter that is... Did you see Tony Grossi smile after Cade York missed that kick? See, that's why nobody likes him, because he roots against him and the Browns. Shut up. Like, what is it with... I understand you're not going to like media members, myself included. I get that. I get plenty of people. I know plenty of people out there can't stand me, including Fanboy Nick and Warden McAllister and Big Shot Bob. Big Shot Bob's been acting well. Big Shotty. But, like, do you really think that Tony Grossi is sitting there in the press box? He's like, yeah, alrighty, another one, no. And matter of fact, he was the biggest advocate for him when they drafted him, because there were people complaining, as some people do, like, man, why are you taking a kick? You could have taken, so come on, you can find a kicker. No. And then first game and then all that. But he's struggling right now. And the reason he was smiling, I shouldn't have to point this out, but I do have to point this out. The reason why he was smiling is the same reason I was smiling when he missed it. And I'm sure many others were smiling when he missed it or chuckled or whatever. It's just it wasn't caught on camera, is that, oh, boy, the fans. This is the thought process. Oh, boy, we're already nervous. The fan base is already on edge for the most part on, is Cade York going to be all right? And let's get that sour taste from last week and last season out of our mouth. And here's a 40, he missed it again. And that's why he's smiling. That's it. I don't think so, Chico. I think he's rooting against him. I don't know. You're an idiot. I don't know what to tell you. And I don't know who it was. I have no idea who it was.
Tony Grossi clarified on Twitter yesterday. He said, for the record, I was laughing at his coworker recording him in the press box. He said the only thing accurate about the website that came out with the article is its name, which is Awful Announcing.
Now, I think Awful Announcing retweeted. I think it was another site that actually, somebody actually said something along the lines of, and I honestly don't know who it was. I'm not, it's not one of those like, oh, I don't want to give him any credit. But it was somebody that said, like, you wonder why people in this town don't like, this guy, and they think he hates the Browns. Well, here's the reason why. First of all, he doesn't hate the Browns. Secondly, his job is to be objective. Thirdly, if you think that's the real reason he was laughing, I don't know what to tell you. I don't. Hayden Grove put something out there because I saw this and I kind of said, like, this is really what fans or what some media, because it's usually somebody who's covering the Browns, not as like a beat reporter, but somebody with a certain like handle or website. And if you're not, these are the same people for the most part that Adam Rank from ESPN picked the Browns to go 6-11. Where's he live? I want to know where he lives. I want to fight him. Who cares? It's a preseason prediction. It doesn't mean anything. Teams that have had sustained success, and they don't pay attention to that crap unless it's like egregious. And do I think Adam Rank is wrong? Yes, I do. But okay, fine, great. But the harsh reality is, the past few years, everybody's been like, oh yeah, the Browns are going to look out for. Hasn't happened. So somebody out there is basically saying, you know what? I'm not buying it. That AFC North is strong, which it is. The AFC in general is strong, which it is. So that's that. Now, it's not me saying, before you guys start hating on me, it's not me saying that, yeah, I think they're going to be at best a 500 team. They have the talent to be better. Will the little things come together? Little things like Cade York hitting big field goals, not just at the end of the game, but during the game and at the end of a half when you're trying to get in field goal position. And it's very important that your coach, play caller, believes in your kicker and feels like, if we can just get to this point on the field, feel good, we got 3 points going into the locker room. Oh, hey, by the way, we get the ball to start the second half. Those are big momentum shifts that good teams and great teams take advantage of on a fairly consistent basis. That's why this is a bigger deal than anything else. But the same people that are ripping Grossi for smiling are the same ones going, don't you think that if you guys in the media were a little more optimistic that the Browns would be better? Do you really believe? I got to look in the camera. Do you really believe that? Like, do you believe first of all, you're giving me, forget about me, I'm a peon. But do you honestly think that me or anyone else in the media being optimistic, pessimistic, whatever, has anything to do, I mean, anything to do, the slightest thing to do with a team's record and their performance? It doesn't. It doesn't. You could say, well, but then the fans take, no, that's not it either. Like, when the Browns were so poor back in, and the team knew it. I mean, Joe Thomas was talking about the year after the year after when they went 1-15 and the roster was basically just bare bones, and we kind of knew it was pretty bad. Like, when you said something about that team or it was negative, somebody's like, well, maybe if you would be a little more positive. I can't put talent on the roster. That's not the case now, but I'm going back just to give you examples. So it's just, to me, it's actually embarrassing for the city and for the fan base. And I know it's like some of you are going, yeah, I agree. That's why Grossi needs to go. What the hell? No, it's embarrassing that it's getting out that we're criticizing a guy for smiling about Cade York missing a field goal because he knows that people are going to continue to be on edge, which they are, and justifiably so on edge. All right, I'm done. Scream at the clouds, why don't you, Chico? All right, coming up at 12:30, we're going to talk to Nick Shook, NFL.com. Big Shot Bob. He called it. Nick Shook on the show today, and he will tell us what we learned from the Browns game and a few other things going around the National Football League. And got some thoughts, by the way, on the Jets. We're gonna. I want to toy with something. We might break it into two parts, but as far as there's a lot of predictions out there, just like Adam Rank. I think Adam Rank. Do you think that's his real last name? Or do you think like he's Adam Rank? They brought him in because that's his real name. And wow, what a better opportunity. You're on ESPN and you will rank or give your picks on who where you think everybody will finish.
I gotta say, I've never thought about that. But
no, you should, and you shouldn't have. These are things that my pea brain goes to. I think that maybe it came down to Adam Rank and some guy named Ralph Brown. And they were like, I mean, all things equal, we got to go with the guy named Rank, don't we?
It's like if the two dudes all have the same qualifications, but one speaks Spanish, you're gonna pick the dude that speaks Spanish. He's got something above you.
That was very Bohm-like out of you, Ryan. Very I like that. I like that. All right, we're going to take a break. Want to hear from you on this, 216-626-7901. Also on Twitter, at Chico Show CLE, my personal Twitter, at Big Play Chico. And also stream us on that very same platform at Chico Show CLE on Twitter and on YouTube. Nick Shook, NFL.com, coming your way at 12:30. We got Fair Foul coming your way next. It is the Chico Bormann Show, and it's all right here on the Big Play Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, welcome back. Chico Bormann Show as we close in on the second hour of the show. Not there yet. It's still morning. 11:52. 8 minutes shy of noon. I feel like I just went all FM jock there. It's 11:52. We got your weather and traffic on the 10s coming up. Hot 98. God, I remember those days. No, I don't. All right, 216-626-7901. Get your calls coming up next hour. Also next hour, 12:30, Nick Shook, NFL.com. What we learned from the Browns game on Friday night against the Commanders. Couple of big days against Philadelphia. We'll also go around the NFL as we like to do with Nick. But right now, with intern Ryan in tow. I apologize, Ryan. That is an unforced error.
It happens. It's a Monday.
E5 right there. E5, Chico.
It's a Monday.
Intern Ryan with us, and he's got a Monday edition of a little fair or foul.
Alrighty, Chico, let's kick it off. Fair or foul? Ronnie Hickman will make the Browns roster after his 2-interception performance.
Now, understand, I think he was going to make it anyway. But, I think he will. Now, I said this on Friday. I don't want you to take this as one of those, Bohm shouldn't have missed this, because, of course, we had C.J. Stroud on Friday, and, he didn't play real well. But Ronnie Hickman today, Bohm he'd be like, this would be Bohm's fair or foul. Hey, Chico, as everyone knows, Ronnie Hickman had 2 picks. So, Chico, he's like thinking about it as he goes. He's like, so, Chico, fair or foul? Ronnie Hickman is the next Ronnie Lott. I love you, Bohm. I love you. I'm going to go fair. I think he's a good player. I mean, he really is. He's a good player. I'm not saying he's going to be a star or anything like that, but he was very, very good in his time at Ohio State. I think having a guy like Jim Schwartz certainly doesn't hurt when it comes to the secondary. Having some veterans to learn from in the form of Juan Thornhill and I'm blanking on the other veteran safety they brought in.
McLeod.
What's that?
McLeod?
Yes, McLeod. There you go. But I think Ronnie Hickman will make the team, but I could see him, nickel dime situations, and could help them down the road. It's funny that trio of Ronnie Hickman, DeJuan Jones, and Luke Whippler. And this is not a homer take, I promise. Not so much this year, but like in 2 years, they could end up being really big pickups for the Browns in that draft and undraft. Because I think they could be maybe some key pieces down the road for them. We'll see.
Alrighty, second one. Fair or foul? We touched on this a little bit, but do you think the Browns will bring in another kicker to push competition on Cade York? They're yet to do so, and the way Stefanski speaks, it seems as though they still have the utmost confidence and not sure that they're going to bring in any competition. Yeah,
2 thoughts on that. Good question, Ryan. 2 thoughts on that. Number one, Kevin Stefanski has to. Well, I shouldn't say he has to say that because we've seen coaches also like, okay, I'm gonna light a fire under this guy. But I think Cade York right now, I think Kevin Stefanski knows that his confidence is so. Of course, he's going to say like, oh no, we believe. Deep down, they're concerned. Now, they might not be as concerned as a fan ready to jump off the bridge, but like they're concerned. They have to be. As far as bringing in another kicker, we were talking about this off the air before the show. Like the reality is, I don't know if they really can. I mean, they could. But you have a lot of injuries elsewhere, and you've got to. That should be one that, hey, you know what, we got to go with this guy. Now again, it's that balancing act which coaches do a lot of in the preseason. Of okay, how much should I be concerned about this, and how much should I just say, hey, he's going to figure it out with my buddy Bubba Ventrone here? I don't know, but I definitely don't think it's something that we're just all blowing out of proportion, and that they're not taking this seriously enough. But the reality is, I don't think they can really afford to devote that resource. I think you need a roster spot and other guys that are injured that you're going to roll with him. You're going to roll with him until he makes it, and hopefully he doesn't, absolutely, unbearable. And then you have to do something.
Alrighty, fair or foul? Jordan Elliott's roster spot is at major risk after the signing of Shelby Harris and a not-so-great start to the preseason.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Really, I've been thinking about it the last couple of years. Not going to say like this particular in-the-moment type thing, but, I've gone on record as saying I love the Jordan Elliott signing out of selection, I should say, out of Missouri in the third round back in 2020. Yeah, 2020. Lot of hype, lot of sizzle, no steak. And, you go to the Hall of Fame game and, wow, he's playing into the second quarter. Is that just because they don't have anybody and they need bodies because a lot of guys are banged up? And, yeah, that might be part of it. Also, what might be part of it is he's underwhelmed for those coaches, and they need to, Jim Schwartz specifically needs to figure out, is this kid, and I thought in the Hall of Fame game he got pushed around. I'm going to save it for Nick Shook at the bottom of the hour in terms of what he saw on film from him. But, I think you could easily say that his roster spot is in jeopardy. Could he get helped out in the end by injuries? Yes. But I think in terms of performance and track record, he absolutely, positively has to be looking over his shoulder.
Fair or foul? Elijah Moore in the backfield is a sign of things to come. Do you think Stefanski could see him in a role like a Deebo Samuel or to go back even more like a Percy Harvin type?
Yeah. First of all, Kevin Stefanski loves those things. So he loves to go into the bag of tricks. And I guess if you go on I don't know. I didn't watch enough of the Jets last year. But did they utilize him? And he's got great speed, as we know. He's a playmaker. Things didn't go his way. Some of it was on him. Most of it was on the Jets. But I think it's clear from day one of minicamp, right? He was coming out of the slot. He was coming out of the backfield. He was wide. He was everywhere. So, yeah, I absolutely think it is very fair. When you say Deebo Samuel, is he going to have that? How tough is he? Because one thing about Deebo Samuel is, he's not as just explosive and top-end speed fast as Elijah Moore, but Deebo Samuel also could, he wasn't afraid to take on tacklers and stuff like that. I think in that role, as you're talking about, I think, yes, Kevin Stefanski, I don't think this is smoke and mirrors. I think he's definitely going to have a few calls for him this season, and probably right out of the gate against Cincinnati.
Alrighty, fair or foul? Our boy DeJuan Jones will be the Browns' future left tackle, and that's, of course, we'll have to see how Jedrick Wills plays, but let's get your thoughts on that.
Okay, so I can play. You can't take back the phrasing here. So you left me a crack, and I'm going to bust this door wide open. Future, meaning could be a year from now, 3 years from now. I'm going to go fair on that because I don't have to necessarily say when, unless you ask me, and I don't want you to ask me. But I think DeJuan Jones, and he's not a finished product, and he's going to, look, we have to understand, playing backups, all of a sudden, you're lined up for real, and it's the Boses of the world, and it's, thankfully he doesn't have to go up against, Myles Garrett and things like that, but, well, he does have to go up against him, which is going to make him better, but not in game situations. But I think down the road, yeah, he's they're I think they're dealing with him the right way. A mountain of clay, incredible athletic ability for a man his size, and it's enormous size, but I need a little bit of work. So if you're going to tell me in 2-3 years he's the Browns starting left tackle, I'm not going to shy away from that one. I can see it happening.
Through 2 preseason games, DeJuan Jones has played 79 pass blocking snaps, 0 sacks allowed, and just 1 pressure.
That's pretty good. Yeah, it's not bad.
Already, we're talking about a little bit about this during the break, but the NFL released a YouTube video, 4.5 hours long, a little season preview for each team, and they gave the Browns. They said their floor was 4-12, and their ceiling was 9-8. So my question is, fair or foul? Both the floor and ceiling are fair. Oh, I guess that's what I should be asking you. Are those good floors and ceilings for the Browns?
Well, absolutely not, because the floor only adds up to 16 games, Roger, or whoever. It's not Goodell that made that, but yeah, okay. Now, as much as I said, like, again, do I think Adam Rank, do I think they're going to be a 6-win team? No. If they are, they've had injuries and dysfunction, and you're in big trouble. But I think it's okay when people say 9-8. 10-7, if things can go their way, Cade York figures things out and there's no dysfunction, maybe even 11-6. But I have to reiterate that there are a lot of folks around the country that just aren't enamored with the Browns anymore. Like, there was a window there, and the Browns essentially blew it. Like, they melted down, they didn't produce, and then the reality is, and again, fair or unfair, like it, don't like it, they went and signed a very controversial quarterback in Deshaun Watson, who is, yes, extremely talented, but, came with baggage, and they got all behind him. So that's also going to turn some guys and gals away nationally, whether they should or shouldn't be turned off by that. They are. So I'm going to say that, 4 wins is ridiculous. So no, they're not. That's floor. I would put the floor at like where Adam Rank had it at 6, and I just don't see that happening. The ceiling, I'd love to tell you that I think 12 is I think 11 is the sweet spot. Like, I do think it's just, I hate to, like, as Bohm would say, pick nits here. I think the Browns are a 10-7 team. Like, it just screams at me. And that's, things go well. It's tough. I think 10-7 is where it's at. So, but yeah, the NFL's putting that out there. And look, this just in, folks, fans, big dog, little dog, smart dog, drunk dog. Nobody nationally really likes the Browns. It's okay. Chip on the shoulder, baby. Us against the world. Cleveland, this is for you.
I still need to give you my bark. I didn't give you it from Friday.
Yeah, give it to me. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Now I got stage fright. I don't know if I can bark.
I'll tell you what. Take the camera off of you and do it. I think that might be a little bit better. Only I'm seeing you.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Hoo, hoo.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I like how you needed the little startup.
Yeah,
of the, here
I
we
couldn't
go,
just
bro.
go straight into the bark. I needed to warm myself up a little bit.
I used to love as a kid walking over from the Muni lot, and that was, and I'm sure it still happens, but this was old Municipal Stadium, and as you got closer, yeah, that chant would start. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Hoo, hoo. And then you'd have the guy that sat next to us. And because he was drunk dog, and because he was like baked out of his mind too, it'd be like the dog getting put down, like, here we go, Brownies, here we go. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, that would
Dog
be
Pound is a magical place. That's
it is.
for sure.
It is.
Alrighty, last fair foul for you, Chico, and we did touch on this one a little bit as well. But fair foul, Dorian Thompson-Robinson will leap Dobbs on the depth chart by, we'll say, our bye week.
So that's week 5. I'm going to say foul, but it and again, this is not any kind of indictment on him. I just think and this is important, it's boring, but it's important, I really have more confidence in this guy backing up. And, Dobbs has done that. Dobbs has been in the league longer. Dobbs has seen a few more things. Now, can Dobbs do some of the things that Dorian Thompson-Robinson can do? No. And by the way, is Dorian Thompson-Robinson one of those? And if you're thinking this way because he's athletic, that, oh, well, maybe he can't. No, this guy's smart as hell. He watches a ton of film. He has since day one back at UCLA. Eventually, he's going to be the backup quarterback. And, hey, who knows? Maybe he's one of those guys where he gets to the point where some team wants to make him a starter, because there will always be a team, needy and in need of a starter. But I'll say hold off on that a little bit, because the real thing is just a little bit different than the not-so-real thing going on right now. All right? And that is Fair or Foul, courtesy of intern Ryan. Not Bob, not Rob, not, I almost said Patrick. Jack. Why am I misfiring on names?
It's Monday, Chico.
It's because I'm old. Grab me a Werther's, will you? Anyway, coming up bottom of the hour, we will talk to Nick Shook, NFL.com, and get his thoughts on what took place on Friday night over at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Two very competitive practices, to the extent where Kevin Stefanski, among others, is saying it's maybe the two most important days of camp. We'll get his thoughts on that and go around the NFL from the weekend with Nick. But when we come back, a surprise. Some of these have already been out of the bag, so to speak, if you've been listening or paying attention, which I know you all do, and taking copious notes. But surprises from every division in the NFL, AFC, NFC, and surprise either way. It doesn't have to be, oh, well, they're expected to do well, but they're not going to be great. It can be the other way, too. Somebody's sleeping on a team, but we're going to do that. I'm going to have mine. I'm going to ask intern Ryan about his, and, of course, we want to hear from you. 216-626-7901, and on Twitter at Chico Show CLE, at Big Play Chico, and of course on YouTube. Follow us there, subscribe there on the Chico Bormann channel on YouTube. More to come right after this Chico Bormann Show right here on the Big Play Sports Network. I'm sorry. I was hydrating. Welcome back. Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. We got intern Ryan kicking some serious tail in here. He was so good on Friday, and there was a groundswell of support. It was tough to get out of here on Friday afternoon. Ryan had a huge groupie following up here at Burke Lakefront Airport. I'm like, I think they thought I was Ryan. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm a big fan. I'm like, really? You like Chico? Oh, no, not you. You're Chico? Yeah, no. Ryan is who we're looking for. Well, here he is.
I got my posse follows me everywhere I go. I can't help it, Chico.
Posses and groupies. When you have both posses and groupies, you know you've made it, and you certainly have. All right, next shook coming up, bottom of the hour, and I want to get to surprises. We're going to do surprises, bold predictions for each division in the NFL. Obviously, we'll start with the AFC. I shouldn't say obviously, but we will start with the AFC. And again, this doesn't have to be. A lot of times when we focus on it, like, oh well, I think they're going to be great, and I don't think they're going to be great. I think they're going to bomb, and that's the only way we look at it. There can be a team that's getting no love right now. Like maybe somebody, probably in the Cape Cod area, is going, hey, nobody's paying attention to the New England Patriots. Remember you guys all doubted no Magassi pay? Watch out for the Patriots. Did you even get that, Ryan? You didn't get that.
I can't say I did.
Nomar Garcia-Parra. He's
okay.
Beyond, yeah. That was my week, There was actually a guy, coached basketball at Mercyhurst College in Erie, PA. I loved him, Carl Fogel. And he loved his Red Sox, hailed from Boston. And he knew I was a big, Indians fan. And so we would, in the early 2000s, before, they were still pretty good, remnants of some of the other teams that they had in the mid-'90s. But we'd go back and forth, and he'd be like, I'm sorry, you like that Vizquel, but we got no Magassi. He's wearing out that left field wall you guys got over there at the Jake, or whatever you call it. Loved Carl Fogel. Shout out.
I feel like that's an accent you've been working on, Chico.
Shout out to Carl Fogel. Actually, Bohm's the accent guru. I will say this, though, and Bohm knows this. I just started Sopranos about 2-3 weeks ago. And I find myself not necessarily but doing this kind of like, like
a lot of the hands.
Yes. Now I'm starting to realize that's where Bohm, I think, gets it. Because he just, if he can get through a show, Bohm, without saying, Chico, you think Rodgers is a bum? Like, I'll be shocked. Like, the only way he's going to avoid saying it is by not being here, which he presently is not here. All right, here we go. Surprises, good or bad. AFC, I kind of let the cat out of the bag on this one, so I'll go first here, Ryan. I'm going to go with the Jets. And look, it's not any kind. I really like Aaron Rodgers, the player, a lot. One of the best I've ever seen. Maybe he doesn't even get enough credit for just how great he is all time as far as just passing the football, doing his thing. But I think this Jets offensive line is going to be an issue, and I think it's going to be a major issue. Now, they've got talent. Yes, they have a good defense, but I think, if you're having problems blocking up front for Aaron Rodgers, and maybe you're having some problems in the run game as well, but in particular back to Rodgers, and if he starts to get a little, because that first episode of Hard Knocks, boy, he is a kid in a candy store, and it's cool to see. And I don't think it's necessarily fake. I think it's like, wow, okay, hey, he's rejuvenated. He wanted out of Green Bay, but all it took was one practice, and I don't know if people saw this in the joint practices. I think it was with the Broncos they had last week. And they went 3 and out in the red zone, and he had no time to throw. They don't hit him, of course, but he had no time to throw, and, well, you sense some frustration, which he's allowed to. But I'm just saying, if things start to go a little poorly, That's a very tenuous situation. So I'll go the Jets, where some people think they could be a sleeper to win the AFC East. I'm going to go they're more likely to be hanging out with the Patriots towards the bottom. What do you got, Ryan?
My surprise for the AFC is
AFC North, AFC East, I mean.
Okay.
It's got to be East Division.
AFC East. I think the Dolphins win the division. I think the Bills still have a great chance. I just think, so easily the Dolphins are the fastest team in the league. I like Mike McDaniel a lot. I don't know what's going on with Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if you've heard any updates, if he's doing okay. But
that defense, with or without him, but yeah, with him will be. It's an experienced guy that he's not the same guy he was, but still pretty good.
If Tua plays, you tell me Tua plays 17 games, I almost find it hard to believe that they won't win the division.
Bingo. I was waiting for you to say that, because to me that's Jalen Ramsey's important. And yeah, if you have a rash of other injuries, but let's just face it, if Tua Tagovailoa is relatively healthy, I'm not even going to say he has to play 17, but if he can play 14 or 15 and he can be available when they need him the most down the stretch and possibly into the playoffs if there are playoffs, I totally agree with that. Buffalo, I'll be honest with you, Buffalo to me is one of the toughest teams right now. And maybe this sounds odd because, Buffalo's a great team, right? Well, what are you worried? But I know the stuff with Stephon Diggs has been cleared up, and we think, but something just feels off with them. They're not going to be bad, but I just think that they went from like a year or two ago where you thought, well, they're going to have a stranglehold on this division, to now, like, they're still pretty good, but they got some things that could go south. And if they leave the door open at all, and this is extremely important, it's maybe one of the biggest asterisks the entire season for any team anywhere in the NFL. If Tua Tagovailoa stays healthy a full season, I think the Dolphins, I like that. I totally like that call. So yours is you think the Dolphins can win the division. A few caveats on there, but I think that's a good one. All right, let's go to the AFC North. Oh, I know a team that plays there. The Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals. I will defer to you. We'll go back and forth on this one. Ryan, you go first. Your bold prediction, good or bad, for a team in the AFC North division.
My bold prediction for the AFC North is I think the Steelers will finish second. And yes, then that begs the question, where are the Browns? I have them at third. Honestly, I have the Ravens in the basement. I have the Browns at third. I have the Steelers at second. And then obviously, I think the Bengals will be the first team since, I think, the early 2000 Steelers to win the AFC North 3 years in a row.
All right, first and foremost, let me applaud your objectivity. Because, and I know you've been around a little bit. I know you're not a grizzled vet in this business yet, but you know damn well, or at least if you don't, you will find out. You picked the Browns to finish third. Unfollow, like that's gonna block, mute.
I'll be very happy to be wrong about that prediction. Trust me.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't mean so you saying the Browns are third doesn't necessarily mean that you're rooting against them. Is that what you're saying?
Believe it or not, that's not what I'm saying.
Let me say that one more time, only louder. Saying that the Browns are going to finish third doesn't mean that you're rooting for them to finish third. You're just being somewhat objective and not always positive. All right, I like that. I don't like that to come to fruition, but I like that. I am going to say, I don't know how bold this is, but I feel like a lot of people are really starting to jump on the Steelers bandwagon. And look, they have the credentials or the resume, and they have the track record, and they have the culture, and they have the coach and Mike Tomlin, who is without question one of the best. I hope I'm not proven wrong on this one, but I could be. I'm still not sold on Kenny Pickett. Like there are certain elements of this team that I like the offensive line we think has improved. I mean, they certainly added some new faces. They signed a road grader in free agency. They've got to get back to, because it's funny, after Najee Harris's rookie season, it was like, oh man, look out, like he's a load, and then all of a sudden last year it was like, well, what's wrong with Najee Harris? Well, okay, maybe some of that was fair, but what was wrong with their offensive line? They couldn't do anything. So thus the change up front with a few guys. I think Kenny Pickett is okay. I don't think he's going to be labeled the biggest bust of all time or Steelers history, but I don't think Kenny Pickett is ready to take that next step. So I'm going to say the Steelers finish last, which again, I don't think is necessarily that bold of a prediction, but I think the idea, I'm just not sold on Kenny Pickett. He'll be an average quarterback this year. All right, we move to the AFC South division now. A couple more minutes here before we bring in Nick Shook. We'll get to the NFC coming up tomorrow. AFC South, you got the Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, the Indianapolis Colts, Tennessee Titans. I think this one might be the most, for these purposes, this exercise, Ryan, I think this might be one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting, to come up with a surprise, good or bad. So I guess I start this one because you started last one. Okay, here goes. I think I'm going to say the Jacksonville Jaguars win the division, which isn't so bold. Okay, so I'm not going to, that was going to be yours too. Yeah, I definitely, and I don't, like I said, I don't think that's that bold or going out on a limb. Here's what I will say. The Indianapolis Colts will finish below the Houston Texans. And that's, so I guess I wanted to set it up by saying, okay, Jacksonville, but I know that's not that, out there. But the Texans are going to struggle. CJ Stroud's going to struggle. I think he's going to be very, very good one day. But Peyton Manning struggled, for God's sake. I can totally hear Bowman. You don't know that for sure, Chico. No, I don't. But Houston's going to struggle. But I think Indianapolis, and part of this goes to Jim Irsay. Part of it's right on the owner. And most people know I'm not a real big fan of many of the owners in football. It's the old boys network, and Raj will protect you, and you guys go do whatever the hell you want to do. Players, the front office is held to a much higher standard than the play. No, they're not. Much lower standard, more like it. But the Indianapolis Colts, with this whole, Anthony Richardson, another guy that I think is young quarterback, much like CJ in Houston. I think Anthony Richardson's going to be a decent quarterback. I like the Shane Steichen dynamic there, working with him. But, we talked a little bit about this last week. Jonathan Taylor, if ever there's a time where you need your stud running back, it's now when you're maybe breaking in. Anthony, maybe he doesn't start right away. That's the other thing. I think sometimes we fall for these guys are going to start right away. He might not. But whoever it is at quarterback, you need Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, you need him healthy, and that's, a whole nother bag of worms. And some of it, I think he's playing the game right now, which honestly I have no problem with. But Jim Irsay, okay, if you don't want to, you don't need to go out of your way to praise the guy. But I always say this, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Just keep your mouth shut. And I don't care if he's the owner. Well, he's the owner, Chico. He can do whatever the hell he wants to do. Yeah, I know. He signs the checks. And yes, in that regard, you're right. I can't argue that technically he can do whatever the hell he wants to do. But in doing so, can you also sabotage your season? Or at least go a long way in helping to sabotage your season? Yes. And Jim Irsay has. I'm going to say the Indianapolis Colts finish below the Houston Texans in the AFC South division. Ryan, what do you got?
Okay, so for the AFC South, my hot take, not only do the Jacksonville Jaguars win the division, I think they will be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I love Doug Peterson. I think he's the most underrated coach in the NFL. you look at the teams and you think of with all these weapons, right? You look at the Chargers. You look at, I guess, not even the Chiefs. They just got Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. But you look at these teams that we're talking about are all stacked. Go look at the Jaguars, right? Christian Kirk has had his best year with Trevor Lawrence. Calvin Ridley's coming back, who I don't know if you've seen the camp. I know not to put a lot of weight in the camp, but he looks primed and ready to play football again. And the most important piece, obviously, is Trevor Lawrence. I think this is the year he takes that leap where he wasn't drafted just to be a franchise quarterback. He was drafted to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I think this is the year he takes a step up. Their defense, whatever. Like, they gave up, I remember, like, the playoff game to the Chargers. They gave up, like, 30 points in almost, like, the first half or something. But then they came back and won. And to me, that was when I realized, like, Trevor Lawrence is going to have his struggles, sure. But I always thought coming out of Clemson, this dude was going to be, like, the next, like, face of the league, not only the franchise. And I think this is the year they put it all together. And they're in arguably the worst division in football. I could easily see them going 6-0, but more realistically 5-1 in the division. And I think, not saying that they're going to be better than the Chiefs, I'm just saying I think they will end up as the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Well, okay, my next question to you off of that was, does that have a lot to do, or is it more to do with they've got 2 games each against the Texans, against the Colts, and against the Tennessee Titans?
I'd say I'd say like 60-40. I'd say 60% leaning towards the side that they're in the worst division. They couldn't, like I said, they could easily go 6-0, but more realistically, beating a team twice in a season is harder than it seems. So I'll go like 5-1 and even 4-2, and then I just love the Jags this year.
Okay, so as we await Nick Shook's arrival from NFL.com, we finish out the AFC. Again, if you're just tuning in, Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Chico here, intern Ryan running the show over there, and we're going to surprises for each division. Tomorrow we're to do the NFC. Today, the AFC. We've gotten the AFC East, North, and South. Now we're to the AFC West. So, bold prediction or, surprise team that you think – neither of us are going to say, I think the Chiefs are going to win the West. Because that's, yeah.
Yeah, so for the AFC West, this one definitely isn't as spicy, but I think we're finally going to have a new division winner in the last, 8 years, and I think it'll be the Chargers this year. I think they'll win the division.
You know what? Okay, that's not a bad choice. That's not a bad one at all. I guess what I would say is they're another team that has all the talent, right? But you're waiting for them to finally put it together, and it's almost like until they do, I can't. Especially because Kansas City is so good, and they're so primed and ready. Like if it was a division where there's not a Kansas City in there, then okay. I mean, I could see that. I just don't. I think Herbert. I'll tell you this. I think Herbert and that offense, Kellen Moore, is going to be. And all reports are, you have those, those training camp visits and the reports, and all reports are Herbert is just absolutely loving life with Kellen Moore as the new OC. But defensively, we know. I mean, last year, the playoffs, and they blow the lead, and I mean that stuff can't happen. Of course, you're going to hear guys like Derwin James, guys like Joey Bosa, others say, "All right, we need to hang on a second. This is at its best. We got to get Nick Shook. Apparently, he's going to be doing it by phone. The video is not working." So give me just 1 second here. This is live radio / podcasting at its best. Chargers are going to be good. I just can't put them ahead of the Chiefs yet. It's kind of like the Browns. I mean, honestly, if you want to compare, it's kind of like the Browns. I've been hearing about this, and they're a sexy pick for a reason. They obviously have an extremely talented quarterback. They obviously have, think about this. Austin Eckler is in the backfield. Now, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, on paper, you can throw Quentin Johnston in there as well, and Josh Palmer as well. Like, they have a lot of weapons, but Keenan Allen might be starting to get up there a little bit. He's been out for a little bit over the last couple. Mike Williams, when he's on the field, he's an absolute nightmare to try to cover at 6'5", but how long can he stay on the field? So, yes, offensively, talent-wise, it would seem if Herbert stays healthy, and that was an issue last year, they're going to be fine. But defensively, have they shored everything up? That's one of those where, I mean, I think it hurts so bad, not only just the loss, but the way they lost, that like that defense and that organization is kind of going through like, okay, how are we going to, we got to go out there and prove. They're saying all the right things, but I just can't put them above KC in the AFC West. And maybe if there's another team and not Kansas City, okay, but I can't do it with the Chiefs there. All right, with that, we bring in, I mean, enough of this fodder. Let's bring in the expert, shall we? Nick Shook, NFL.com. And he joins us here on the Chico Bormann Show, what we learned from the weekend. And I guess we'll start on Friday. Yeah, let's do that, because that was the Browns and the Washington Commanders. I don't know if a whole lot, well, you tell me. Did anything change significantly from what the Browns thought or what we all thought and you thought from the Hall of Fame game to this game that was played on Friday?
All right, well, I missed 90% of your question because I couldn't hear you.
Oh, you want me to start it over?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. We got Ryan.
No, you're good.
Intern Ryan's learning on the fly here. So
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay. So basically what I said is there anything that significantly changed or that you learned that was completely different than after the Hall of Fame game against the Jets after the Washington game on Friday?
I wouldn't say that much. I learned that Dorian Thompson-Robinson should be on this roster, which I think you kind of saw that in the Hall of Fame game. If you watched his college career, you thought that might be an outcome of early in his time with the Browns. I learned that, unfortunately, Kellen Mond does not have a place in this roster, and that this offense with its starters is going to have a lot of potential. Deshaun Watson looked a lot more comfortable. It's obviously something we learned that we didn't see in the Hall of Fame game because he didn't play in the Hall of Fame game. Elijah Moore, the hype, I think, could be real if he can stay healthy, which there was a bit of a scare in that game. And defensively, I think you're going to have a pretty strong group. You know, it's tough to get too much out of these games because the starters are only in the field for like a series or two at the most. But in the glimpses that you got from them, I was very impressed. I also was reminded of how Kevin Stefanski can sometimes tighten up a little bit along the goal line when it comes to his play calling. But again, that's preseason. You're not going to pull anything crazy out of the books there to get into the end zone when you don't have to, because these games don't count. So a lot of reasons to be encouraged. I know the final score doesn't show up, but it's preseason, and you have some surprising depth at other places. You know, Ronnie Hickman had the game of his life. Curious to see if he ends up making the team after a performance like that. He looks like a natural, much like he did at Ohio State. And it was good to see guys like JOK out there on the field. And even Zadarius Smith was in uniform and on the field for a little bit as well. More than anything, I was just encouraged by the fact that Watson was able to deal with pressure and make plays and did not freeze up, and the offense didn't look lost, which it often did last year. And I know, again, it's preseason, but it's an encouraging development that you're never really going to see come to fruition until you get to the regular season. But since it is now August 14th, it's good news to have as opposed to the alternative.
As our buddy and your colleague, and he's not my favorite, obviously, because today you're with me. So whenever Eric's with me, then I always say, no, Edholm, it's you, I promise. But I love what Edholm, how he termed it, because I think the word that got overused all last week, and myself included, and after, he looked more comfortable. And he said his fight or flight was correct. Like last year, he hanging on to the ball, when to bail, when to run out of the pocket, when to stay in the pocket. And I thought that was so well termed that, he did. It looked like he was fine in the pocket, and when he needed to leave the pocket, he's going to leave the pocket. That's so very important in the NFL, and certainly for a guy like Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way to put it. And, it's really been something that he struggled with for the majority of his career. If you go back to his early days in Houston, and even people in Houston will acknowledge this, he used to run out of clean pockets all the time just because it was force of habit or he just didn't trust his offensive line. He felt like he needed to create additional space with his legs. Whatever it was a common theme early in his career with the Texans before he started to kind of settle that down. And then you saw the opposite of that last year where he was, bailing out too late, just getting swallowed up or just a lack of consistency in that department. So I totally agree with that. And that really showed in that drive when he picked up, he evaded the rush, where Chase Young basically got right in there and he bails out and picks up positive yards to the point where I'm like, get on the ground. It's the preseason. Don't get hurt. But to see him extend the plays like that was really encouraging for I think a Browns fan base that does not know what to think about their quarterback situation right now because the recent data doesn't suggest one way or the other. Like you're being told that this is supposed to be a star, borderline superstar quarterback that you went and gave a ton of capital up for and spent a ton of money on, and he didn't look like it last year. But was it because he hadn't played in a long time, or was it something else? Now we're going in the opposite direction a little bit with just these little glimpses of what he could be, so it's very encouraging.
Nick Shook, NFL.com, is our guest on the Chico Bormann Show here in the Big Play Sports Network. All right. How concerned should we be? You thought I was going to say Cade York. I'm not, but we will in a moment. How concerned should we be? Because things have completely changed. Not an old man yelling at the clouds, but just in your time covering football on a regular basis, with the CBA and what coaches are willing to do, not willing to do, and every coach is different how they handle it. And I think hey, if you're a good coach, your team, so if it's different week to week for certain coaches, that's fine. How difficult though is that balance for let's just specifically say Kevin Stefanski, where you really want to get Amari Cooper out there and Deshaun Watson out there and get some reps. And I'm not saying it's vitally important, but would it help? Sure. I mean, Bernie, said as much. Granted, he played way back when, but he's like, hey, the more reps you can get and the more comfortable you can feel, the better you're going to be. So I don't know. How do you feel about that dynamic as we get ready for the season? And it's not going to change a whole lot. Two competitive days against Philly coming up, but how do you do that dance in the NFL as a head coach?
I honestly, I think it's a case by case situation because you can even look at this year compared to last year for the Browns. Yeah, they pretty much knew in the preseason that they were going to have Deshaun for a month and a half, and then ended up being close to 3 months' time. And they had to kind of prepare accordingly. They had to give Jacoby the reps after Deshaun got on the field in Jacksonville, to start the preseason. So I think that you kind of weigh into everything, take into account everything that's going to matter in the next month because you got to hit the ground running. We saw for a lot of teams last year in the preseason that the first month kind of was preseason for them. And I think a lot of that is a product of not playing those guys significant reps. You just got to speed up to the game. You're not going to step into the box in baseball and hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball if you haven't been in the cage for a month. You're just not. You can have all the natural ability in the world, but you still have to kind of get back into the swing of things no matter what it is you do. And I think the same applies for football players because there's a big difference between high-intensity reps in practice and game speed. There just is. There always is going to be. And so I think depending on where you are as a team is how you make that decision. Now, the Browns, they need Watson ready week 1. They need him comfortable in this offense with some new faces, by the way. And they also need to figure out who they're keeping in the bottom third of their roster, which could become surprisingly important if it's a decision for your third running back. Is it Demetric Felton? Is it John Kelly? They both got reps on Friday night. And receiver being the same thing, they have to figure out, who the 5 or 6 of that group they're going to keep as well. But I think it all starts at quarterback and getting them in the flow of things. Now, we've seen in the past, based on situation, where some guys never played in the preseason. Tom Brady rarely ever took snaps, that type of thing. But they still, these coaches make these decisions based on how these players are feeling and how they have adjusted and what the background, the history that they can rely on as proof that, hey, he doesn't need preseason reps. He does need preseason reps. I think the way that the Brown season went last year, it's pretty clear that Watson and some of these starters need these reps. Even if it's only for a drive, they still need these reps. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them play again in, the next week and the week thereafter before we hit that dead week going into the regular season. I think it's going to be important to oil up those gears, get things going.
So, Nick, when fans say, and we've heard a lot of it, we heard a lot of it after the Hall of Fame game, more of it after Friday's game. Man, we got to bring in another kicker. If for no other reason, you got to light the fire. I don't know. I don't think he's too comfortable. How can he be comfortable right now? If anything, he's too uncomfortable. So I don't want to make him more uncomfortable. But, like, what is the reality in terms of bringing somebody else in? I mean, you're only allotted so many roster spots, and you have guys going down right and left as it is. Can they really afford to bring somebody else in and do you think they need to, or are we just all flying off the handle, just completely out of line with that assertion?
I think in some instances, guys need their cage rattled, the fire lit under them. I don't think Cade York needs it. I think Cade York's cage is already pretty rattled based on how he's performed in the preseason to this point. Consistently pushing kicks of about the same distance wide right. What he needs is more reps and some confidence to be able to hit those. And I don't think bringing in somebody else is going to help that. However, you're also kind of leaving yourself in a vulnerable state if you don't explore those options. Are those options out there? That's the biggest question to me. I don't know. Look at the Cowboys. Look at what they did. Tristan Vizcaíno was on the roster as a week and a half ago. And they had Brandon Aubrey, the former USFL kicker, who actually was a soccer player before he was drafted into the USFL and is now making the leap to the NFL after having a couple of really solid seasons in that spring league. They dumped Vizcaíno because he had a rough camp. Before he even got on the field in the preseason, they said, we're going to go with Aubrey. Aubrey, by the way, didn't have a much better camp when we talk about total field goals made as opposed to those missed. But they realized, look, this competition is not working. And they also went in that direction because there's nobody else out there, really. There's one guy out there. Robbie Gould is still out there, but he said he wants to play for a contender. Guys who take that stance usually think, all right, I'm going to wait it out and see if somebody needs a kicker that, is likely to be a contender at this stage in my career. I don't know if the Browns are that safe of a bet when it comes to thinking from this perspective. So, I think that they keep going forward with York, and if he has another bad game and you get to that point, then maybe you start to explore. I know they have, plans for every scenario. And this scenario is not quite as dire as I think it's going to be, but I don't think we're very far away from them kicking the tires on a few guys if those guys are available.
We never, ever, we never think that Browns fans aren't going to come up with a reason for the struggles for Cade. Like, they're going to dig and they're going to dig and they're going to dig. And you know what? Maybe it's not Cade York's fault. Maybe it has nothing to do with Cade. And I feel like, as I said earlier, I was hit with this before the show. Our great social media guy, Nick Padone, gave it to me. And I like, it might be something, it might not be something, but I do think it's funny. First of all, it's in graph form. And as you know, anything that's in a graph form, you have to take much more seriously, Nick, than if you just kind of lay it out there. So it's in graph form.
The y-axis is the x-axis of time of day, and the y-axis is field goal percentage. I don't know.
It's T64 and the Pro. That stuff gives me the EBGBs as well. But this is lines and all that good stuff. So maybe this is on Corey Bjorkes. Bjorkes, the holder, also the punter. They went back 2018 and 2019. Steven Hauschka. His season field goal percentage, 78.6%. In both of those seasons. His career field goal percentage without Bjorkes, 85.2. We're not done. Tyler Bass, 2020, 82.4% season field goal percentage in 2020. Pretty good, by the way. But his career field goal percentage without Bjorkes, 87.3%. And last but certainly not least, 2021, Mason Crosby, give that guy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, 73.5%. This is the big jump. Wait for this jump. 73.5% in 2021, but his career without Bjorkes, 82% even. That's a big jump. So is it, Nick, that, you know what? We are simply placing that we didn't do enough investigative reporting. We didn't do enough digging. The real culprit is the punter, Corey Bjorkes.
This is one of the greatest segments you and I have shared in the history of this show.
That's not
Right
saying
now.
a whole lot, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, it's not like we've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
But to this point, this is the best. And the reason it's the best is because somebody did this research. And because I'm very conflicted. Because I already named Mason Crosby off the top because I knew where Borges used to play. And I believe, if I'm not mixing up last year with the year prior, Mason Crosby missed 3 of those kicks in one game. And it was in Cincinnati. So that's tough to argue with that data. These are guys at different points in their career. Steven Hauschka was kind of toward the tail end of his career. I think he went from Seattle to Buffalo, I want to say.
Yep. You're right.
Tyler Bass was his replacement in Buffalo and has gotten better since then, proven to be pretty good. Mason Crosby, veteran, been around so long that they did one of those quirky Madden commercials with him where he kicked a ball up and hit the bell tower at a college campus to ring the time. CGI and all that stuff. But back then he didn't have gray hair. He's been around a long time, and this is something that wasn't just him with Borges. It was kind of a trend to a degree that maybe he was just getting old because he doesn't have the range that he used to have either, regardless of who's holding for him. But that's also so like you have, it's not 1-to-1. Nothing operates in a vacuum, but that is really interesting. And the downside to this for Browns fans is that that's not going to change because Corey Borges is a damn good punter.
Right.
And they're going to keep that over worrying about who's holding for him. Let's go back to the days in the backup quarterback hold. Why not? We could just solve it in one fell swoop. Just DTR. Go figure out how to hold for field goals.
I don't know. Nobody had a problem when Mike Pagel or Paul McDonald or Don Strock or any of these guys. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think you go back to the days of – no, I don't know. I think Bubba Ventrone – I know Bubba Ventrone certainly is poring over this every single day, wondering, okay, hey, what can I do to make my kicker better? And how I'm sure he's thought of this or seen some of this, but I don't know, maybe we bring back – do you remember newscaster, Nick? I know you don't go as far back as I do. Do you remember a newscaster by the name of Robin Swoboda on News Channel 8? She was married to Brian Wagner, was a punter for the Browns back in the, I think early 90s. And, maybe Brian's like, because those guys, it wouldn't be that, okay, yeah, hey, I don't have what I once had. I can't necessarily, but if you're just snap down, maybe instead of bringing in kickers, maybe you bring in holders or use other guys on that roster. I don't know. I mean, because, all right, I'm joking to get to a serious part that we touched on last week, okay? We can laugh until it's week 1 or beyond, and another missed field goal leads to another loss, and then, well, you know what? Now we're starting to go, and then, there's your season. It's not that simple, I realize, but these are big things. These are big things, Nick.
Snap. The ball is out, down. The kick is blocked. Oh, there's one person left. One man between him and the end zone. It's Brian Wagner. 53-year-old Brian Wagner. Oh, he's run over. They're going to have to stretcher him off the field. That would not be a good idea. It's you talk about roster spots, man. I don't know. I mean, is it worth – what if you spend that roster spot on a holder and then the kicker comes out and still misses? Then it's the kicker's fault. Then you've really put yourself into a pickle.
Let's just call it what it is. Cade York needs to get – he needs to get right. I don't know what.
Figure it out.
Yes, exactly. And that's what Nick Shook is here to do, help us do every single week, and that's why we continue to bring him back. Also,
bad time to sip water.
If we can if we can make him choke on the water, that's a good thing. That's content, people. That's content. Nick, great job as always, buddy. The Browns and the Eagles doing battle actually today, 5:00. Two very key. Kevin Stefanski says the most competitive days maybe of the camp. But we'll talk to you next week and get your thoughts as the preseason winds down and we get so close to kicking it off for real. Thank you, pal.
I am very ready for it. To all the Browns employees who are currently in the Philadelphia area, go to Jim's Steaks. Avoid Pat's and Geno's. Go to Jim's Steak. That's where you get your real Philly cheesesteak. That's it. I'm out.
Oh, that's a parting shot if I ever heard one. Oh, that's a great, intern Ryan, that's a great parting shot. See, I've been to Philadelphia, but it was only like a layover. And it's been like, I don't know, 3 times I've flown. And I've had not 3 times in my life, but 3 times that I've flown and had to use Philly as a layover. So one of those times I did get an airport Philly steak and cheese. What are they? Am I
Philly cheesesteak?
Philly cheesesteak. Jeez, oh man. I mean, come on. But I've been told it's nowhere near like. And I would go to Philadelphia just for that, like because Philly cheesesteaks, a good Philly cheesesteak is, I think, worthy of you travel, you make it happen, however you're going to make it happen. But what's so fascinating about this and all other, food arguments is, okay, who has Pat and Geno's for a while was just, well, it's Pat and Geno's, it's Pat and Geno's, it's Pat and Geno's. Which one? Now you can argue about one of the two, but primarily those were the ones that were in the conversation. But now, and I can't tell if it's people wanting to be, not that this is shook, but people wanting to be, kind of out of the box a little bit. But I have heard Jim's a lot lately. Chico, you have a lot of conversations about Philly cheesesteaks. You're damn right I do. Very important. You know anything about Philly? Can you shed any light, intern Ryan, on Philly cheesesteaks? Because I'm all ears on this one.
I can't. I've never been to Philadelphia, but I do love Philly cheesesteaks, and I think the best one I've had around here, but take that with a grain of salt, because it's obviously not comparable to Philadelphia, I'm sure, but Jersey Mike's has a very good one. I don't know if you've ever had it. I recommend it.
I have not. I remember in my time, I know we're winding down here, in my time in Pennsylvania when I first started my career, as a matter of fact, I was just talking about him because we went to the Guardians-Phillies game on a Saturday night. Bybee pitched. It was the 1-0, the fly drops, and they win, And he is a diehard Phillies fan from Philadelphia. And while I was in Erie working in radio, he had his own business, but then on the side, he also owned a bar. And he would have flown in the bread, which they say, all Philadelphians will say, the bread is the key. The bread is the key, but then there's other secrets involved. And from that point on, I've been so enamored with it because, yes, it is a great sandwich when done right, when you get a great one. But everybody has their, like, kind of little secret way of doing it, which makes it, so great. All right, anyway, we have tackled the important issues of the day. We've gotten answers to issues that keep you up at night. Is it Pat's? Is it Geno's? Is it neither? Is it Cade York's fault or is it York's? Huh? Or was it the librarian and this is what we figure out here on the Chico Bormann Show. Ryan, great job as always, buddy. I appreciate it. You'll be back with us again tomorrow. Is this a full week? So. Full week for you?
I think Bohm's gone for a while.
No, I know. Yeah, I know he's gone this week. I didn't know if there was going to be,
unless Big Shot Bob or Jumpin' Jack Flash want to take a jab at it.
I get the sense that Big Shot Bob has bigger things that he needs to do. Like he's got to sit down with Jared Allen, or he's, I don't know. I don't know if he has time for us here at the Chico Bormann Show. But Ryan, appreciate it. Great job as always. We've got a couple things we're going to get to tomorrow. Of course, day 1 tonight at 5 is the joint practice with the Philadelphia Eagles. More on that and much more as the week progresses. So for Nick Shook, great job out of him for joining us, and intern Ryan, all of us here at Big Play Sports. I'm Mike Chico Bormann. This has been the Chico Bormann Show. And for all of us, hey, make it a great rest of your Monday. See you.